The following program is a SUTV student production. The views expressed are not necessarily those of Salisbury University, the University System of Maryland, its regents, administration, officers, employees, or representatives.
All right, well, today we're here with Senator Jim Mathias, and I just want to say thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely, Taylor. I'm proud to be here at SUTV.
Thank you very much. So I'll just go ahead and get started. Why did you decide to run again for this position?
Well, certainly there's a lot of work to be done. We want to make certain that the Eastern Shore continues to have an effective voice in Annapolis. So we've been very, very fortunate. We have brought our Senate President here. As you well know, we've been through some very difficult economic times. The Great Recession, the worst economy since the Great Depression, and we have been able to bring the help of the administration, bring the help of the Senate and the House. I served in the Maryland House of Delegates for 4 years, and I have great relationships that I've built. So when we look at the challenges that we face here on the Eastern Shore, let's talk about our education. As you well know, we have worked very hard to bring down the cost of college tuition. And the governor froze that for 3 years and then put a 3% ceiling on those educational costs, on the tuition costs with regards to our universities. That are our roadway improvements. We've worked for a number of years at Route 113 in Worcester County, which was a very dangerous roadway. We've been able, in our time in the Senate in very difficult economic times, to bring a $50 million roadway improvement to that road to further expand it. There's one more phase yet for that to go. Tourism, absolutely critical. Small business, critical. I serve on the Senate Finance Committee, where every piece of industrial Maryland is discussed, from insurance to banking and utilities and offshore wind, onshore wind. These are the issues that I've become very familiar with, and I want to take those relationships and that expertise that we have been able to learn and through experience and move forward and continue to serve the folks of the Eastern Shore and throughout the great state of Maryland.
Okay. And what separates you from your opponent?
Effective leadership, effective results. If you take a look at some of the things that we've been able to accomplish since we've been both in the House for 4 years and in the Senate, these are issues that have been discussed for a very, very long time here. Let's talk about slot machines and service clubs in Worcester County. Back in the late 80s, when they allowed slot machines and service clubs on the Eastern Shore, Worcester County opted out because of Ocean City. Ocean City didn't want them. They were concerned about them. But as time went on and these service clubs have become vital, particularly our military, our armed services with the VFW and the American Legion and the like, they needed the funds in these clubs to be able to keep those clubs strong. And then we were able to add Worcester back. The very first year that we were in the Senate, this is something that they fought for from the late 80s to happen. And in 2011, when I got elected, we were able to work with these relationships and get the job done. They go ahead and donate 50% of those proceeds back to the nonprofits, the homeless shelters, back to the Little Leagues and the like throughout the district, throughout Worcester County. That's one issue. Over in Worcester County and certainly in Ocean City, the hospitality industry is absolutely critical. The bar restaurant industry there. For 40 years, they were working to be able to get away from the dispensary system in Worcester County. 4 counties in Maryland, Worcester, Wycomico, Somerset, and Montgomery, had to operate under the dispensary, still operate under the dispensary system, where private sector buys their liquor from government from at an additional 15 to 30% increase. And we were able, I was given the challenge, and we were able to get an opt-out provision, which happened this July 1st, where the industry now can buy direct. They're able to save those 15%, 20%, 30%, to reinvest back into their business, and certainly to hire more employees. And you know what? The good American way, to make a profit. And that's what we're here for. Chemotherapy affordability. This is Pink Ribbon Month. October's Pink Ribbon Month. And I say to our viewers and to our listeners, please continue to band together. What we've been able to do is take which was once a terminal disease and make it a chronic illness. You know how we were able to do it? by working together. My late wife founded the Worcester County branch of the American Cancer Society and went on to lead the Pink Ribbon Month. And I promised her when she passed in 2011, that I would continue to fight. What we've been able to do by building our alliances and working together in the Senate through our leadership is bring affordability, parity to oral chemotherapy. And insurance companies, they would not fund oral chemotherapy. They would not allow that to be covered by insurance. They allowed the intravenous chemotherapy, but not the oral. And the oral has become more targeted. As you know, with research and the like, we are making great strides with this disease. And the oral chemotherapy, both for quality of life, where you don't have to be in an infusion room for several hours, and also for targeting a more effective chemotherapy drug. That is the drug of choice today for a variety of cancers. And we were able in both 2012 and 2014 to have that parity brought for those throughout our state. Initially, about 12% through the first bill of the insured in Maryland were covered, and after the second bill we just had passed in 2014, almost about 70% of those insured in Maryland now have more affordable chemotherapy repayment and coverage from their insurance companies. So when we talk about, and I could go on, we already touched on offshore wind. Perhaps we'll talk about that a little bit later with our environmental concerns and the like. But effective leadership. Effective leadership, we have a strong record. And you go to www.jimmathias.com and you can take a look, and I invite you to comment, invite your viewers to comment.
Okay. And what are the issues concerning like the Maryland State Senate, and how would you address those? What do you think are issues that are happening?
Well, certainly our economy, Maryland's economy, and certainly making sure that business, the backbone of jobs in Maryland is business, and making certain that Maryland is competitive and an inviting state for business to come and be able to thrive here in Maryland. You know, we hear so much about perhaps other states and how inviting they are, but you look at the quality of life that we have here, and when you look at the different technology, U.S. Chamber of Commerce deemed Maryland #1 in our technology to come and do business. But being able to invite business, have business grow. We've been very fortunate in my time in the Maryland General Assembly. Maryland was named #1 in public education, K through 12. #1 throughout the United States of America. American Education Week, 5 years in a row. And then when you couple that with our strides that we've made in making higher education affordable, what we want to make certain that we do is with our highly educated workforce that we have jobs for them here in Maryland and here on the Eastern Shore. So really that's it, rural prosperity, making certain that here on the Eastern Shore we protect. My mother always told me, she said, Jimmy, you take care of what you have first and then worry about everything else after that. Making certain that agriculture remains strong, making certain that tourism remains strong. Our small support businesses, small business remains strong. We just had a group of investors come in here. When you look at the hub that this university provides for economic development, I just had lunch this afternoon across the street at the Cookout, and you look at the strand of restaurants and all that are there. But we just had investors come here in recent months and make an investment in ultimately a $40 million project at Court Plaza and Temple Hills. I want to make certain that our economy continues to grow. As we sit here today, there's upwards to 4 hotels, significant flag hotels in Ocean City that are under construction. So I want to continue to drive our economy in Maryland, continue to drive industry here in Maryland, continue to drive #1, absolutely, our industry, technology, and the like here on the Eastern Shore. Wallops Island. When you look what we're doing, how we're sending off supplies from Wallops Island to the International Space Station. Unmanned aviation vehicles. About half of the employees in Wallops Island live in Maryland. That's our technology base. When you look at University of Maryland Eastern Shore, the new aviation engineering building that we were able to contribute in funding by voting for these budgets. You look at the Commons here, you look at this building, the Teachers and Technology Center that we are in here now, you look at the Aviation Engineering building, and you look at the industry and the professions that these buildings, facilities underwrite. with our education on the Eastern Shore, with technology on the Eastern Shore, the Allied Health Services building at Warwick Community College. I am striving and working towards, hopefully, one day, working with Salisbury University, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and Peninsula Regional Hospital, to having a part of a medical school here on the Eastern Shore, so that we can make certain that we have the doctors here that we need to serve our rural population. And also, when we talk about technology, telemedicine. Telemedicine is absolutely critical, particularly to the Eastern Shore on the rural areas. But rural prosperity is my top priority.
Okay. And you've shown a lot of interest in agriculture. You just talked about that across the Eastern Shore. Is there anything you'd like to change or continue to improve upon in planning, especially with like farmland?
Well,
that was something in your past, so I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that.
Well, absolutely. It's interesting if you take a moment and look. I've been here on the Eastern Shore for 43 years, and I really have had the pleasure and the privilege in recent years of meeting our farm families. They're fantastic. When you talk about our legacy and our heritage here on the shore, we have our farmers, we have our watermen, our commercial watermen, but absolutely, there's so many times they're misunderstood. That because of the different fertilizers that are required to be put on the land, and because of the health that we strive to maintain with the Chesapeake Bay, there's this misconstruing of the farmer. And we have been able to bring that agricultural voice, to Annapolis effectively. As you well know, and I'm sure your viewers know, there was it was a horrible, horrible lawsuit that was brought forward to the Hudson family, Alan and Kristen Hudson. And they were alleged to have been storing open poultry manure on their property, and that runoff was going into the waterways and ultimately into the Chesapeake Bay or the Atlantic coastal bays. And as it turns out, after tremendous couple of years, stress, anxiety, cost, and all, they were exonerated to that fact. And they were vilified. So many times our farming community, our poultry growers, our integrators, our crop grain farmers, they're vilified. And I want to make sure the number one environmentalist is our farmer. And when you look at it from a economic point of view, every bit of fertilizer that's put on that land costs money. Now, honestly, ask yourself the practical question: why would they ever want to put more on that was needed? Absolutely, you're seeing around from farm to fork, we are enlightening our general citizenry about how important farms are. Where does the food really come from? And so much of what we eat and consume here in our state and across our nation and throughout the world comes here from the Eastern Shore. So what we have been able to do, what I continue to do, is make certain that voice is not only heard, but is heeded and is effective. With regard, again, to poultry litter, a couple of sides to that. This phosphorus management tool, the amount of phosphorus that was allegedly in the soil, bears very little to no relationship to how quickly it runs off into our waterways. But because of certain counts proposed under this phosphorus management tools, over a certain count, you would not be allowed to apply poultry litter. And we were able to, that was fast track. We were able to stop that, and certainly, ultimately, through language that we put in the budget this year, we've had at Beacon, Dr. Memo Derricker conduct an exhaustive economic impact study. Not $1 can go from the Maryland Department of Agriculture to implement the phosphorus management tool until this study is done and understood. Protecting the farm industry, absolutely, and the farm industry are the farm families. And you know what? How about open space? We've learned our lesson. We learned our lesson through the mid-2000s when real estate was booming before the Great Recession came and the bottom fell out. And we saw what used to be open space because it was at a premium to be developed or redeveloped, become developed. We saw density. We saw congestion. But what is more pristine and more open space than farmland? And when we wake up in the morning at 4:30, 5 a.m. in the morning, I know that sounds early, when I was on the city council and Mayor Fishpowell was the mayor, and he was getting ready to go to Annapolis to take care of the needs of Ocean City, he'd say, "Who wants to go with me to Annapolis?" And I'd raise my hand. I said, "I want to go." Mayor says, "Mathias, you're not going. I got to leave at 5. He says, "That's AM, son, not PM. And in your life, 5 only comes one time a day, and that's in the PM." But, as you go forward, at 4:30 and 5 a.m. in the morning, you know who's already at work. Our hard-working farm families. They're already at work preserving their legacy. We've had farm families here since the 1600s. And this is something that is absolutely critical from our legacy, our economy, and certainly open space, environmentally, and when it's for each and every one of us, no farms, no food. So I work every day, not just the 90 days that we're in session, but 365 days a year, virtually 18, 20 hours a day at times, just to make certain that all our needs on the Eastern Shore are met, including farming and agriculture.
Okay. And what would you do to connect the Maryland State Senate to the Maryland universities, such as here as Salisbury University?
Well, I can tell you what we do. We have internships, and those your colleagues here, I understand you're in your senior year, and your colleagues here that are in public policy and politics and the like, certainly we have enjoined with them with regards to having internships and to be able to be involved. We've talked about the sensitivity of affordability. My son, Trevor, I went to the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and I'm a graduate of there. My son, Trevor, graduated as well in 2012 and just got his master's at University of Maryland at Baltimore in the spring, and hopefully will be taking his Maryland, his medical exams. He's going to take a prep course and hopefully be able to take his exams in January. But I am a tremendous advocate of the USM, the University System of Maryland, and I look at this asset of Salisbury University. I'm proud to have voted for these budgets. I was proud to stand out there the day that we broke ground for the Commons, and knowing all the facilities and the technology that will be coming with the new library and the radio station and NPR, and certainly proud when I sit in this Teachers and Technology building, proud when I see the Purdue School of Business, proud when I go down to University of Maryland Eastern Shore. We've already talked about that. But these are tremendous assets. These are engines, economic engines,